All right, looks like we are live, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to another episode of the Tattoo Weekly. I believe today is episode number 15. Thank you to everyone joining us on YouTube, Facebook, or even listening to our podcast. Also, thank you to Reinventing the Tattoo for providing this awesome community for us to be on. So, Jake, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm great, Lauren. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We're missing out on Gabe this morning. He has
Yeah.
some other stuff going on, but that is okay. We will say hi to him from everybody. So if you're watching, let us know where you're beaming in from. Drop us a comment, tag a friend, and let's get this show started.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. So I had a good weekend. How about you, Jake?
Yeah. Everything went pretty smoothly this weekend. We had crazy, I don't know if you've been watching the news, but these tornadoes that came through the South were crazy. Some of the wildest we've ever seen, and they did come through around us. We had some damage, in the city in Memphis, but most of it just went north of us, and poor like some parts of Arkansas, but mainly Kentucky just got devastated. It's crazy. Like one of these tornadoes stayed on the ground for like 200 miles or something, like without picking up. It just like steamrolled through several states, and yeah, it's been nuts. It was like I want to say what over the weekend. What's this? Mid-December now. It was like 80 degrees in Memphis.
Holy
80.
cow.
Yeah, crazy. So normally, like the highs would be in the 40s or 50s right now. So it was kind of I guess, a perfect storm for that kind of weather. But just a lot of warm air. But that was really the bulk of the weekend for us, was just making sure, like I've told people on here before, my wife and I have a lot of rental homes in the Memphis area. So we spent a good part of the weekend just going around and like checking on houses, and we had some trees down and stuff, but no major damage, luckily. So
Yeah, definitely. That was pretty catastrophic,
yeah.
historical levels. Where I live in Wisconsin, we got maybe half a foot of snow, really heavy
Oh
snow
wow.
with a lot of wind. So temperatures have totally fluctuated. We were, you know, -10 last week. It's crazy.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
nuts.
60 degrees this week. So
We wouldn't know what to do if we got a half a foot of snow at one time. Well, it happened last year. We shut everything down. It was crazy. We have a few folks popping in on the Fireside chat. Hi from Texas.
what's up, guys?
Paul. Yeah, Paul Lane says, "What's up, Jake and Lauren? Tuning in from 5 Points Tattoo in Lafayette." We've heard of Paul before. He's been on. Yeah, Paul. Glad the storms missed me too. That was it was sketchy. Yeah. And then Kate Bentley says, "Jake, your content's so helpful. Please keep it up." Oh, and then we have hi from South Africa, Clayton Oliphant. Nice.
Cool.
Hey,
South
everybody.
Africa, I've worked with Body Graphics Tattoo Supply over the years. And
Yeah.
honestly, I've been surprised at all the talent that's coming out of like different areas. My particular experience is in Johannesburg, so I'm not sure where you're watching from in South Africa, but yeah, you guys have a
Yeah.
lot of talent.
Yeah. It's crazy to see talent coming from different parts of the world, and like it when I first started noticing, mainly on Instagram, that I would see like people with a really particular style coming out of, say, Russia, or maybe some really incredible neo-traditional work coming out of Australia. And it was like, it would be like really great work in a particular style. And I don't know if that's just the way it was presented to me, but it's like, it seems like different parts of the world will just like kind of reinvent a style of tattooing and make it their own. And you're like, oh, it got to a point, and now there's so many great tattooers, that I keep up with, that I don't know who's from where, but it seemed like for a while I could like look at the tattoo and go, oh, I bet that's another Australian that did that. But
I agree, whether it's like a mix of what the clients want and what they see and what they're exposed to. But I think that it was Tony Urbanic, and we were talking about he was talking about like the evolution of building your own tattoo machines, and there was an artist, I believe, in Russia. It might have been somewhere a little bit more further into Asia, but is talking about like how they didn't really have the resources, throughout the last 50 years on building machines and stuff. And now that they have access to see what's going on in the world, you can start to see like more noticeable transformations in their building styles or whatever. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
now that
that
we're so exposed to everybody in the world, it's going to be a little bit more like either aha moments or kind of like mixing together everything.
Yeah. And then something that I think of sometimes is with a lot of these companies that are starting to send up these satellite constellations, and will bring on, out of whatever 7 billion people, I think like 2 billion of them right now have internet access, or maybe a little more than that. But it's going to like double a lot of these areas that have never had, parts of the world that have never had access to information. And it'll be crazy to see what, new groups of artists contribute once they're online and seeing what other people are doing and bringing their own ideas that we probably haven't seen before. I know Elon Musk is sending a bunch of satellite constellations up that's supposed to it's supposed to give high speed internet to basically the entire planet. That'd be really crazy to see. It's amazing to think like so many people still don't even have access to information at their fingertips. It'll be crazy to see what they do once they do have that information.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
In other parts of the world that I enjoy seeing tattoos out of, Israel has a bunch of good artists. If you look up Edit Paints and Abihu Tattoo, some of my personal favorites.
Yeah, Edit Paints. I need.
Yeah, let me pull her up, you guys. So, and if you have any artists around the world that you guys think that we should check out and share, definitely let us know.
Yeah.
While I'm pulling that up, let's roll our introduction clip, and I'll get her stuff pulled in the background.
Perfect. Did you notice that we need to update our intro? It still says Sundays at 9 p.m.
I did actually just notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Sunday
cool.
evenings are always a little tricky for me, so I'm glad that we kind of, start the week with tattoos rather than end the weekend.
Yeah. I'm with you. Sunday was difficult for me, so this works a lot better. Hopefully, it works well for everyone else. And if not, they're recorded and they stay up. So,
Okay.
so all right. So. Edit Paints, okay.
Yep. She's one of my favorites. They're out of Tel Aviv, I believe, in Israel. So there's a lot of really fine details, and she does do online teaching as well.
Oh, nice.
So she has a lot of
Oh yeah. Oh, I may have seen a few of these shared. Yeah, that's incredible.
Beautiful work.
Yeah.
And also her husband is an artist that I enjoy watching his profile, but he does more black and gray, whereas she is colorful realism. And so he's just, you can tell like the shop vibes around there and the type of clientele that they're bringing in is very fine.
Yeah. That's really nice. Yeah, really well done.
So yeah, it's cool to see the different parts of the world and what the clientele are asking for, whether or not it's like trends or whatnot, or like who's pushing the limit. So that's always awesome.
Yeah. There's someone, I can't think of the name now, that reminds me of the work that that Edit Paints was doing, and I'm just I would pull him up, but I can't.
In South Korea, is he in South Korea?
Possibly. Do you know who I'm talking about? Can you think?
I think there's maybe 500,000 tattooers in the world, but
there's someone that reminds me a lot. It's like really, really nice soft realism, and then it'll have. But what they'll do that makes it so interesting is they'll like have these little they'll kind of Yeah, that one's really nice too. I think Gabe showed this last
Oh,
week.
okay. This is who I thought you were talking about.
Yeah, no, that's not the same person. I'm drawing a blank on this person's name. I may be able to find them, but what's cool about them is they'll do that really high end realism, like soft kind of painterly realism, and then they'll have like a stick figure off that's somehow in the composition. Like maybe it'll be like this really beautiful like angel riding a chariot, but the horse is like a stick horse or something like that, but it's so the juxtaposition is really crazy. I'll have to think. I'll share it with you guys as soon as I think of the person's name. It's a strange name. It's not easy to pronounce, but oh well. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'll think of it.
Yeah, if anybody in the comments chat is watching, drop a comment if you know who we're talking about.
Yeah, perfect. Paul Lane says he also loves that we're on Mondays now. That's his off day drawing. That's thanks, Paul. Yeah, that's same for me. I spend most of my Mondays preparing for the week, getting all my drawing. Let's see. Paul also asks, what's your thoughts on the ink bans in the UK? This is a question for Lauren. I'm worried our ink prices will increase. The suppliers will have to use stricter standards, and the price will reflect that.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a fact. It's not even speculation at this point about ink prices rising. But for example, like ink prices are going to rise a percentage, and so like for these pigments, we're a tiny company. Raw Pigments we're not like, not everybody knows us, but we've spent thousands and thousands and thousands. Literally, all of our revenue right now is pretty much into getting the pigments passed. There's larger companies they're able to spend that, but then if you look at like Lou, for example, we are all investing quite a bit of money into testing and all the stuff that people have been asking for. Show me the results, show me this, show me that. But I don't know if you can necessarily just come out and say that these are all the results that you've been looking for. But you could also rest assured that the companies that will be certified under the new REACH regulations have definitely invested money to do so. So it's I remember in 2018, one ink company will just do a price increase, and it's a very, very fast trickle. There's no real communication amongst manufacturers as to how much you increase, but usually, so if Eternal goes a certain price, Fusion will probably go that price, Industry will probably go that price, World Famous will probably go that price. So I know that World Famous is increasing, but I can't say at what percentage. But in 2018, the percentage was like pretty impactful, and I'm gonna say 20%. I could be wrong, but some bottles were going up like $1 a bottle. So that sucks. But then again, at the same time, you can I don't know, you can pre-plan. Everybody has to factor in inflation that's going to happen, which is supposed to normally be about 3% a year. But yeah, I mean, there's not much I can say besides using ink that won't dry out, using ink that smaller bottles, you have 12 months to use it upon the open date. You'll also see labeling changes, which is expensive as well. So our label, it like fans out. So we had to have certain types of glue that we, look to find the best glue. We look to find the best type of label style, and all that stuff is an investment.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's going to be, if you put it into perspective, cosmetic inks, like it's very similar product, but yet look at an ounce of cosmetic ink versus tattoo ink. So in the grand scheme of things, we still are at a pretty fair price point compared to like other industries that are using similar products. And if you have to increase your tattoo prices, that's kind of just, unfortunately, in my opinion, how it's going to probably end up, how you're going to end up covering that extra cost.
Yeah. And the thing that I always try to keep in mind is compared to other industries, our materials as a percentage of revenue, our supplies and materials is really minuscule. There's so many industries that work on these thin margins because so much money goes into their, whether it's into their raw materials or cost of goods sold, that they're trying to eke out, a profit on, 8 or 10 or 15%, of their gross revenue. They're trying to like carve out 10%. And if you look at what, it's just the tattoo industry in general, I bet that our materials, what we use to do tattoos each day doesn't make up 10% of our gross revenues. It's a small fraction compared to other industries. And I think about that all the time. Like, maybe I buy a full set of of inks from you guys, and I spend, $1,500 or something like that. Well, literally, that's like a couple of days of tattooing, and those inks last a year or two, for a long time. If you're buying like 4-ounce bottles of inks, or even the 4-ounce bottles, I think is what I normally buy in the sets. They it lasts, so long. So you have this. It seems like when we're making our Kingpin orders or whatever, that we're dropping a ton of money, and then you look and you're like, well, I haven't ordered razors in like 9 months. I haven't ordered drape sheets in 6 months. So I feel like just as a percentage of revenues, tattooers really have it pretty lucky.
Yeah, and there are things that you can do to be proactive. For example, everybody knows the benefit of bulk ordering. So, I mean, whether it's not, you reach out to manufacturers and say like, hey, like we're going to put together, we want to do, is there anything that you guys can do for a shop discount?
Yeah.
I mean, I personally would be willing to work with somebody where I like speak to them. Maybe other companies might not have time, I'm not sure, but I know that there's stuff like that. I mean, for example, if you're going to order razors and you have a shop of 7 people, I guarantee if everybody ordered their razors at once, you may be able to get a price point. So, I mean,
Yeah.
moving forward, if that increase in the ink prices does impact you, I guess, for us and many other companies, they'll offer like up to 10% set discounts if you order the entire set versus individual bottles.
Mm-hmm.
You could order at certain times of the year. Holiday specials are always going on. Black Friday is always going on. So, order, for example, on Black Friday or Cyber Monday, you could order all your software for the year, maybe even all your inks for the next, quite a bit of time. And you'll be looking at like at least 40% off in some areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone just asked, 12 months after opening to toss out, ? So that's the lifespan of the ink. Yeah.
Sure. So it's not really the expiration date. You can purchase, but date of open is going to now be on the label for 12 months. So that's why those 1-ounce bottles, I mean, you can't really get those discounts if you're going to order a 1-ounce bottle. So in Europe, it's pretty much 1 or 2 ounces or half ounces, but 12 months is what the regulation will say.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Paul says, definitely going to be, picking up some raw pigments on his next order. Paul, use the code Fireside. You get 10% off of raw pigments.
Actually, I think it's Fireside Tattoo.
Oh, is it?
We could post it in the comments.
Okay. Fireside Tattoo. All right.
Yeah, Fireside Tattoo, all lowercase.
I've been telling people just Fireside. So when people say that the code didn't work,
okay.
It's my fault. It's my fault.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right. I agree with you on the bulk ordering, just with shipping alone, not obviously the discounts that you can get by ordering in bulk, but just saving your shipping and trying to order. I try not to be placing orders every month if I can get away from it. I try to really, place big bulk orders if you have the ability to store a lot of stuff. And of course, I'm a 1-man shop or a 2-man shop now. My buddy David's tattooing with me, but we both only work on one piece a day. So it doesn't take a lot for us to order 6 months of supplies. If you're doing 1 tattoo a day, that's like, you've got 3 or 4 needle cartridges, whatever your setup's going to be. And you've got, maybe 10 or 20 ink caps, you got 1 razor, maybe 2. So at 1 tattoo a day, it's easy for us to order in bulk and for it to last a long time. If you're running a 12-person shop, then obviously that's a bigger investment and tougher. You just have to be able to store, those things. I know at Underground Art, we were working on a small little storage closet that we just couldn't possibly order in bulk. So.
Well, another thing that you can do is kind of like be smart about how you manage, even if you're just managing your own inventory. It may seem like, but even create your own Excel sheet and kind of look at the life of how long one thing will last. Because literally, like if you want to knock it out and get 6 months at a time, you could save, imagine you save half just by ordering in bulk.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had on my Trello board, my to-do list to sit down and determine how much it actually costs to run my shop for a day, just a 1-person shop. I haven't actually sat down to do it, but back to my first point, I would imagine it's, compared to other industries, it's such a small fraction of our revenues that we put into our materials. So I wouldn't think that $1 or $2 difference in a bottle of ink, is going to make. I can't imagine that you would really see that. Or feel that. Well,
I mean, let me ask you, what's your ordering process for you as like just for yourself? Do you usually do it like you work with your other artists and you just kind of place one order from one place, or do you kind of?
I try. I've always tried to do that, but it gets more difficult whenever you start to I've found a cartridges that I like that I can't get from Kingpin. Raw. I've been using your inks, and I can't get those from Kingpin. I used to just place a Kingpin order, and so now I use Tattoo Lovers Care ointment. I just like the smell of it and the feel, and so I have to order that from them. So it's gotten to be a little trickier. My assistant Allie handles it for me. Basically, I have a dry erase board on the back side of my supply closet door, and every time I notice that I get the last of something or getting close, I just write it on the dry erase board. And when there's enough stuff on there, we just try to place one bulk order and buy enough to last. We try to place 6 months or so at a time, but I'm not able just to order from one spot like I used to be able to. It does take 3 or 4 different orders to get everything that I need. Yeah, and that's not counting like Costco, where we'll get paper towels and other that type of supplies. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Because then, like for us, I know I set up like a little like rewards system or whatever on our site. So if you spend this, you get that. But like if it were us through certain suppliers, then that wouldn't apply. For us, we have like exclusivity with certain distributors in certain areas.
yeah.
But yeah, it's strange. I mean that sucks because the shipping costs. But then again, I mean at least you're ordering from the source, and we do our own. Every company should be doing this, but tracking. So for example, if you look on your bottle and you see like Eternal Ink bottled for True Tattoo Supply, they specifically know, and they do that because if there were any sort of problem or recall, they don't have to pull every single thing. They have a batch lot ID. They usually wouldn't have to pull all of it, but they would pull just that batch, and they'll know exactly where it is, because that tracing is a huge part of the recall process.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. There you go. There's our ink talk. Do we want to get into our? I don't know what all. I know you had a couple of podcast related things you wanted to promote. I was just going to talk about our most recent episode and what we have coming up this week. But do you want to kick it off?
Sure. I'm going to just share something. So if you guys are or are not familiar with Chris Dunn, Jason Leeser spoke with him, I believe maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago. So I was just going to share a little bit of that interview, kind of a little behind the scenes talk. And I love Jason's interview style. So
cool.
Let's go ahead and get that.
Awesome. I mean, I have screenshots saved from 3-4 years ago of like, oh man, I want to draw a lotus flower like that. And I keep thinking back, you had one lotus flower that was done in colored pencil, I believe, that was just, it blew my mind. And then you did like a whole series of goldfish. That was awesome. That inspired me a lot. Those were ink paintings on, looked like almost stained paper.
Oh yeah.
Really awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. But based off of the work that you post, what led you towards that more illustrative style of tattooing?
I gotta say it's deadly. I mean, I heard of I got wind of Deadly a few years after I moved to Calgary, and I was just blown away. I mean, I couldn't believe that I hadn't heard of them when I moved out here in 2012. I think it was maybe 2 years into working out here that someone came into the shop that I was working at, and they had a tattoo from James, and I was just fucking blown away. I was like, holy shit, who did that? And he's like, oh, James Tex, just up the road. And I was like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? And then he's in this city? And he's like, yeah, check his Instagram, check his shit out. And then from that day, I was just blown away. And then I think at that point I did more, I was into more portraits, more like kind of creepy black and gray kind of stuff. And from that day, I just kind of just switched. I was like, I don't want to copy, do portraits anymore. Just kind of try to duplicate someone else's photo or art. I just wanted to kind of draw my own. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Deadly Tattoos. Now James and and Anthony Tex are incredible. I know Chris. I know. I just was looking up Chris Dunn while he was talking. I don't follow him. I've heard his name though. I did know. I did know that he was one of the artists there. But I'll start keeping up with him now.
Sure. And so he mentioned James Tex. So James is going to be throwing the Deadly Tattoo Convention, you guys. I will be going. Jason will be going. Rob from Good Guy will be going. So it's going to be something pretty cool. I've never been to Canada, but seriously, there are so many good artists up there.
Oh yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. When is that show?
It's the first week of June, so it's about June 3rd.
Okay.
I can show you guys because honestly, I know that it sold out almost immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet it did. I would imagine they pulled all those crazy good Canadian tattooers.
200 artists. Yeah, they don't have too much on their Instagram right now, but if anybody else is going, let us know. It should be great.
Yeah, and it's in where? Calgary? Is that right?
Calgary. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
James Tex has some incredible pieces just to see in person. I know that another artist that I really like, Matt Curzon, will be there. Just a stellar lineup.
Yeah, I would assume that Steve Moore would be there, huh? They're
Ooh, I think so, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. So this
Yeah.
is some of James' work, and of course, his son Anthony is
Yeah.
stellar. I really
Yeah.
like this piece myself.
Yeah, it's really cool. Kind of a stained glass piece, really bold and well laid out. It's nice. Yeah. Both of those guys are, or everyone at that shop, both those guys are really good. I thought there was another, is his name Blind Vulture? Does he not work there? I thought he did, but I didn't, not his name.
I'm not sure about that.
Let me see. I'm just going to look real quickly here. Blind Vulture. I thought that he was, Dan Fletcher is his name. I don't know why I thought that he was at the same shop, but I might be wrong.
Okay.
It doesn't look like it. He doesn't say anything about it. Just says his name. So maybe he's just in a private studio. He's been doing some. What caught my attention about him is he's been building custom frames, and I've been trying to do the same, but his are on a completely different level, like paint frames for paintings and things like that. So, well, cool. Yeah, that was awesome. What else do you have?
Let me pull it up in the background here. So I spoke to Jordan and Fawn the other day, Thursday, for their tattoo collecting podcast. So we talked about a few different things. They were at first mentioning, like acrylic pigments. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So I will pull that up for you guys.
Yes.
So oil.
Paints, if you're talking old house paint, you're going to get twice as long out of a can of oil paint before it starts cracking and chipping and flaking, because it naturally has these flexible properties to it. Where with acrylic, as acrylic ages, that expansion and contraction as temperature changes and humidity changes, as acrylic ages, it becomes more brittle more quickly. So
and sunlight, I'm sure, affects it big time. You've ever seen plastics in general, after they've been exposed to the sunlight crazy for a long time, they just get thinner and jittier.
Yeah. Anytime you're going for longevity, you want to go with something that's solvent based, just because the test of time has been there. However, I still work with acrylics, and I think it's important to know how to work with acrylics, just because, like, for instance, that piece that you and I worked on, well, those two pieces that you and I worked on together, they came out beautiful. They were all acrylic, but, that was, something experimental that was on the fly. It had its application. Do I think either of those pieces are going to last a few hundred years? Absolutely. Do I think they would last longer if we would have used oils? Yeah, but I clear them in polyurethane. So they've got a layer of poly that's fully dried and cured underneath, which is really important. Then, because that's a solvent-based media, I had to sand it so that when we applied the oil, we have a mechanical bond, so that acrylic could actually grip to the tooth of where I sand. So there's an oil to seal the back, a mechanical bond for the acrylic to grab, and then I let it, I like to let things cure and totally dry before I clear them. So now I have encapsulated that with another layer of polyurethane, which is oil-based. So there is acrylic in between two oil-based layers, but we worked thin. So that acrylic is on there thin, so that polyurethane can still bond to itself around that acrylic. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like, there's never a 100% yes or no, don't use acrylic or don't use oil or do. It's just one of those, like, what's the application? How long do you want it to last? Is it going to be in direct sunlight? Is there a chance it's going to be outdoors? Is it going to be in an area where there's going to be a lot of draft? Is it going to be in an area where it's well protected? Like, all of those things are variables. But then you've got this. It's harder to move oil paintings around. So if you're working in a mobile situation, acrylic might be the way to go, just so you can get your piece done successfully.
Right. Layer after layer.
Yeah, there's
Quickly.
that. But then at the same time, under the right conditions, and if the right person is owning that acrylic painting and preserving it correctly and cleaning it correctly, it could last just as long as an oil painting. There's just so many variables, and it's a matter of using the right chemistries and the right orders and not mixing incompatible. Because if you mix incompatible without, like I said, sanding or making a mechanical connection, that's where you've got paint chipping and peeling and flaking off over time.
Yeah.
Loaded question.
So yeah, that was pretty interesting stuff, and it kind of segued into what we spoke about after that,
was
which
a great explanation of all that. Yeah, just
which was acrylic use in tattoo inks.
A lot and stuff, but
Gotcha.
like also
Yeah.
just the thought.
Is that still playing on your end, or is that
only
playing on
being
my
done,
end?
you know,
I'm still
Yeah.
hearing the audio.
Sure,
bad,
just one second.
Okay. Yeah, it's really interesting. And that kind of when Fawn was talking about kind of the order of operations and paying attention to the type of bond for longevity and all that applies also in oil painting. You find people, if they start to add too much medium too quickly, you've heard like the fat over lean method and things like that in oil painting, and you can end up with the same problems if you end up with with too much oil on the surface, and then trying to put, or too much medium, say a linseed oil or something like that, and then you try to put heavier pigment or oil paint on top of that. It ends up cracking super prematurely. And I've had paintings here that are less than 10 years old that are already showing signs of deterioration where I just didn't apply the paint correctly. So it can happen in any type of painting. I used to have this, just talking about the difference in oil and acrylic. I used to, there was a guy, I had a painting studio when I was at Memphis College of Art 20 plus years ago. And there was a guy that had a studio next to me, and he used to do really large scale paintings. And what he would do is, like, they were these kind of perspective paintings. So there'd be like a very small figure kind of looking out into the distance into a like overwhelming kind of landscape. And he always did the foreground character would be in acrylic, and it would be applied very kind of flat, and it had that kind of flat plastic look. And then he was really great at kind of glazing and building the rest of the painting in oils and using kind of a traditional master's approach. And the difference in the foreground and background, like how he used the kind of plasticky look of the acrylic and then all the luminescence in the oil, was really interesting. His last name was Duckworth. I've never seen anything from him again, but I thought it was a really kind of cool approach that he was taking 20 something years ago in his work. I should try to look him up again. I can't think of his first name, but Duckworth, maybe. I'm sure there are several Duckworth painters, but
quack, Mr.
Yeah.
Duckworth.
Right,
Meaning back to Mighty Ducks. Speaking of painting, I'm curious, does anyone ever, like, I'll share this because I'm thinking of it, but do you ever use your inks to paint or draw, or like use them at all? So Andy Foe, who's in Austin, Texas right now, he's working with Trent Below and David Vega at Devotion Tattoo Studio. He did some cool little studies with another artist I really like, Mark Wade. So if any of you guys do this, I'd be curious to see. I know in the past I've worked with artists who have done, even wall murals at their shop or studio with their inks.
Mm-hmm. I've never done that. We had a guy that worked with us for a little while at Fireside. He was doing our blog. His name was Art Hollander, and he was a former tattooer that had gone back to school, got into teaching, and was painting, and was using a lot of his older and expired and half dried up tattoo inks back then to make paintings. And I had never considered it before. I've never tried it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. See if anyone else here has. No one's saying anything yet about that. Lots of hellos and
cool
comments on other stuff we were talking about, but yeah, All right, well, that's cool. Was that all you had to share? Or
Yeah,
you wanna...
for today, and
Okay.
then I guess at the end we'll wrap up. I wanted to showcase like a little sneak peek at what's coming up for tattoo events. And thank you
Okay.
to World Tattoo Events for sponsoring Reinventing. So that'll be just a short segment towards the end where we kind of forecast what's going on in the world.
Okay, sweet. I'll share. I don't have a lot. We have a great episode that aired last week with Nick Mitchell, and
right
I've got a little clip from that that I will that I'll share sound. Let's see here.
And then when it comes to tattoos, you not only are you telling a story about how you see that person, because every caricature artist sees somebody different. So every time you see a new caricature of that same celebrity, it looks different. That's how they saw it. So that's the story. But with the tattoo, now you have to lay out a story, background, interactions, there's other characters, other things going on. And I think a lot of that comes to the layout and design of the tattoo, because almost like a comic book page, you want to be able to have people look where you want them to at specific points to tell the story, frame to frame in a comic book. Well, on a sleeve, for example, you might have a focal point up top and then movement and flow direction to a different part of the story and so on throughout the sleeve, all the way throughout the piece, just like a painting. You control the viewer's eye. So it's just interesting, how many levels of storytelling that could be in your art that you're not even realizing you're doing too.
Yeah, and then you have the. Yeah, that was a really interesting episode. That came after Nick's, the day after Nick's seminar that he did, and I talked a little bit about his seminar last week, and how I like it when people can take something that you don't understand at all and give you put you on a fast track to being able to understand the basics of it. So the way that he breaks down the anatomy of the head, and when you look at someone, what stands out to you and how you use that to make decisions, and how to and the basic layout of the caricature. I never did caricature work. It's funny. Nick started doing caricature work at a theme park. He was just recruited out of his art school to come draw caricatures at a theme park. The same thing happened to me at Memphis College of Art in the late 90s, early 2000s. Someone came around recruiting us to come and draw at a theme park, and I didn't do it. A couple of other people I know did, but it's funny to see how someone like Nick took it and he's made a full career out of it. So really interesting. Did I lose you, Lauren?
No, you didn't lose me. I was just checking out some
Yeah.
of the comments, and I saw that you've got a lot of people commenting from around. I was going to check out Black Gold Tattoo Company from Cade. So that's awesome. So yeah,
nice.
I like it when I see where you guys are tuning in from, because back in the day, maybe 8 years ago now, I went to so many tattoo shops everywhere, as thousands. So it's cool to see where you'll cross paths again one day. And it sucks because sometimes looking back in my memories, I genuinely miss a lot of the artists I met, because you can form really good relationships with people over tattoos in almost no time. Relationships that last, nonetheless.
Yeah. It's the reason that we end up kind of going and doing the same shows year in and year out, is because it's the only time you get to be around that. In America, the tattoo kind of crowd is separated West Coast, East Coast, North, South a lot, and so the same people do nearby conventions. And I noticed that if we start trying to bounce around and do different shows all the time, I'm meeting new people, but I may never see them again unless I come back to that specific show. So we found that we just pin down 6 or 8 shows a year that we know 75% of the people that are going to be there. Of course, it ends up being the same people on the podcast year in and year out, but it's cool because you've gotten to know them a little more. The conversations can get a little deeper, a little more interesting, and you can challenge each other a little bit more because you are friends, and they're more comfortable kind of being in front of the camera after the first time or two. But yeah, I love that about just kind of about the tattoo world, that you can form relationships, disappear from that person for a year, show back up, see them at the same show the next year, and kind of pick up where you left off. It's a lot of fun.
See, that's the thing about conventions too. I couldn't even recommend more. I've been to so many. It's just make it a point to do things, even if it's just short, grabbing lunch together, because those memories seriously they last forever. I know that I've been to a few shows where they have like, 4 artists, like a buffet area or something cool where artists get together, because sharing food is a really, actually an intimate thing, and it's good to practice sharing. So I hear. But yeah, if you really make it a point to like think ahead, like, you're going to go from Thursday to Monday, is there a restaurant that's open after midnight that I can like go to, rather than wasting time looking for food, but just, get an idea of where you're going? Because even to some less experienced artists who do like the concept of conventions, they're going like looking for what you're talking about. They're looking to build these relationships, but it's like there's so many people, sometimes there's a magnitude of opportunities you just miss.
Yeah, absolutely. The only other thing I had to push besides that with Nick is we do have a new 3 Minutes to Better Tattooing episode coming out this week, and it's on tattooing eyes, not tattooing eyes, but tattooing pictures, tattooing eyeballs in as a part of the imagery. And it's actually a little clip from Jesse Smith, who obviously tattoos a lot of eyes in his characters, and he had a cool little tip that I thought would make a good 3 minutes better tattooing. So that'll be this coming Wednesday.
Do you like tattooing eyes, Jake?
Yeah, I do. I it's funny, and I'll talk about it more in the episode, but I think that's one of those areas where a lot of times we end up drawing what we think something looks like rather than what it looks like. Eyes, I think, are kind of the best example of that. So we'll like, you have an idea of what lips or eyes or a nose looks like, and so you tend to like over render it and not consider what's actually happening, and Jesse brings that up in this little clip that we'll share on Wednesday. I think that's one of the best examples. You see someone drawing eyes and they draw like a football shape with a dark circle and then a color circle and then white and then a little highlight, and then that's what an eye looks like, and which is not really the case at all, and so yeah, I love tattooing. I love tattooing eyes, because whenever you think about them not as eyes but as a reflection, of whatever, the possibilities really open up of what you can do with eyes, how you can use them. I find myself leaving them open all the time now. You know what I mean? Not overly rendering them, like just leaving them hazy in most everything. I'm doing a dragon right now where they're hazy. I'm doing I'm tattooing a mermaid right now where they're hazy. They really can change the feel of a piece. Or,
does that keep you like invested mentally, kind of having fun with bringing fun back to certain areas? Of the piece.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with something like that, like eyes, because people are drawn to them. And so even though they may not be like in Jesse's work, they're usually the dominant kind of factor, like he's fish eyeing his characters. And so the eyeball might be really big and in the foreground. And so they're dominant because they're the major shape. But even, in the mermaid that I'm tattooing, it's not really about her face so much. It's much more about her hair. So the eyes are really pretty small, but what you find is that you can completely change the mood or the feeling of the piece with just the eyes. Even though there's such a minuscule piece of the design, people are just drawn to eyes. And so I think we could probably do a whole series on tattooing eyes, really. But
now that you say that, I look at and I analyze photos of eyes and tattoos of eyes all the time. Now I'm gonna when I see you post something, kind of think twice about it.
Pay attention to the eyes. Yeah, I don't always over render them. In fact, I probably under render them more than anything nowadays. Let's say, but that's all I've got for the day. But that episode will come out on Wednesday, and I think it's a good one. I'm going to try to start with these 3-minute episodes. If other people don't mind it, I'd like to start pulling advice from other artists. They've all kind of been centered around my ideas, these little episodes, and I don't know that that's the best thing. I think we could probably get a few more opinions on those episodes. Kate Bentley says, just bought the Tattoo Lovers Care, looks awesome, been using Hustle Butter. They're similar. If you're using the Hustle Butter that has the CBD, Tattoo Lovers Care has like 50 milligrams of CBD, and Hustle Butter has something similar. All of my clients, and Tattoo Lovers Care is never sponsored or anything like that. I just started using them. I forget, I must have met them at a show.
I gotta tell you, I was gonna tell you about that too.
What's that?
So when I was at the Golden State Expo, I was hanging out with my buddy Howie. By the way, Howie Tattoos is a stellar color artist. in
Yeah.
California. So we were
Yeah.
just hanging out, eating candy, and then this guy comes over who's super cool, and he's the owner of Tattoo Lovers Care, and he's super passionate about it. But the way that they do it, it's honestly, we should bring him on the show to talk about how he's forming the company so it's artist owned that is building over time, so you're actually invested into the company. But we should definitely send him a message and bring him on, because it's really, I would say, a good company to support.
Yeah, I agree. I've talked to him quite a few times as well over the last couple of years. We had talked about them maybe sponsoring the our live streams, kind of doing an affiliate code, just like what you did. I was trying to get people that I'm using their products already. It's such an easy way. When people ask, like, what needles are you using? I love to be able to say, you can get 10% off of them, if you click here. And so I reached out to them to do that with Tattoo Lovers Care. They were struggling at the time, and they may not be as much now, but with just with fulfilling orders. This was midsummer, and so a lot of that, the kind of backup with with the supply shortages were really affecting them, and they were trying to ramp back up. That's still happening. It's happening with Jesse. We were talking about Jesse earlier, his method tattoo systems. We've talked about working together in some way, but he's like, man, I can't fulfill the orders that we have, so I surely can't justify promoting the product right now, since I can't fulfill orders. So hopefully that's short-lived. We can get back on track.
Yeah, and one thing I just want to mention, because I was talking to Jason about this kind of thoroughly the other day, so it's fresh on my mind. Like, when you talk about a sponsorship, like, well, just on the surface of a sponsorship, like sponsoring an event or sponsoring a show or a live stream, like, how passionate are you about, like, believing in the product before putting your name anywhere in the same sentence as it? Whereas, like, I start to see things everywhere, like, say, Amala, or like all these companies, Quadrant, that are really good, or some companies I don't know a lot about, but, like, how do I know that that's gonna stay true, or people aren't just gonna say, oh, this is the best, and then the next week, oh no, this is the best, and then next year, oh no, this is the best. But, like, do you believe in that product? Is that what a sponsorship tells everybody else, or not? Because I see a lot of times that it doesn't always tell that story.
Yeah, I agree. That's and that's why I've gotten over the years to where I prefer these. For one thing, I prefer the kind of affiliate partnerships, because there's kind of skin in the game for both sides of it. And what I've started paying more attention to is obviously the product needs to work and be something that I actually use. But I like to have relationships with the with the owners, the people who are involved in the company, because if I'm going to put it out to our audience, who we've spent the last decade trying to build trust with, and they have a bad experience and tell me in the comments, hey, I ordered from Tattoo Lovers Care and my order didn't show up, or whatever else, I want to make sure that I have someone's number in my phone that I can say, like, hey, I'm pushing your products and people are telling me that they're not working. And I don't want to have to go to, like, their customer support to do that. I want to be able to talk to the person that's making decisions. And so I for that reason, and we're lucky we're in the tattoo industry, that's easier to do. We're not dealing with massive companies all that often. And that's why that's something that I found that I pay a lot of attention to is what's my relationship like with the with the people that make up the company that we're promoting.
Sure. Yeah, that's come to think of it, you do have a lot of very credible sources, and, like, building that credibility was definitely not easy over time. Yeah,
and it's worth more than any sponsor could pay. There's no, there's just the time that it took to build the level of trust that I hope that we have with our audience, and that comes from what we've tried to do is just put out honest, good content for the last 8 or 10 years without asking for very much in return. If you go back and look at most of our videos, we're giving a lot, but we're not asking a whole lot back. And that's that takes a lot of patience and stick-to-itiveness and effort and in a long time. And so it's Scott and I, who's my partner in this, we talk about it pretty regularly about what it looks like as we partner with people, partner with companies, and start promoting products that we're using. It's like, well, we have to make sure that our number one goal is making sure that it serves our audience, and that we're actually helping them out in the long run, even before, like, the financials of Fireside. You know what I mean? It's got to be something that helps our audience, because we've spent too much time and effort, developing this trust.
Sure. I think that that could be like there's two additional perspectives on that same situation. One would be from the person giving the sponsorship, the company, like Tattoo Lovers Care. And the second would be, don't we hope, in the name of the art and the craft of tattooing, that that same philosophy extends to the client?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
with the absolute, like, I'm not going to just use this aftercare because I'm sponsored by them, but it's not the best that I could use type situations and scenarios. Like really cradling and loving your clientele enough to use, you know, whether it's like, oh, I'm really hurting because the price of ink. Well, there are good manufacturers that make like, you know, mid-level quality valuable products, like say Good Guy Supply. That would be one reference where you can find different types of like price breaks on, you know, still good valued products.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, using the best clients or the best products definitely would be for the client.
Yeah, yeah. I recently made the transition to speaking of Tattoo Lovers Care. I'm giving it to my clients, and normally I think those tins, the little I don't know what size they are, 50 milligram kind of tins, sell around $24 a tin. And I think, you know, buying them in bulk, I get them somewhere in the $15 to $16 range or something like that. And I used to always give away A&D ointment because for my entire career, that was what we used for aftercare, was vitamin A&D ointment. And as I realized that this stuff was better, I started out trying to sell it. I just had a little wall of it, and I said, I can either give you A&D or you can buy this for $20. And I found over a couple of months that some people were just taking the A&D, but I was becoming more and more convinced that the other product was better. And so I finally just tossed out the A&D and built it into my day rate to allow to give them a 10 of it each time. Yeah, but that way they're not having to make the decision. They're already spending a day rate. Do I want to spend another, you know, do I want to get upsold, or do I spend the day rate and everything, you know, kind of comes with it? So.
Sure. Real quick question, because I know we got to tie up here in a second. So what is like the exit plan for your client at the end of the day? Is it like, what happens in your situation? Is there like a checkout area, or is there like, you know,
I got away from all of that at the end of a 6 or 7 hour tattoo day. People are tired and I'm tired. And my situation, I know, is a little bit different than a lot of people, but they're all ongoing pieces. I wrap them up, send them home. Most of them know aftercare instructions by now. Most of them are pretty heavily tattooed. Give them their aftercare, send them home, and then we invoice them later. So there's no real checkout, anything like that. They get invoiced and they can pay at any time in the next week or so. And that way we're not trying to, you know, half the time, you know, they're trembly and freezing cold and all that after a long day of tattooing. And so I just try to get them out the door and, you know, back to their house and recovering. So my checkout process is pretty minimal.
Yeah, I think I've heard you touch on that before.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, never had a problem with it so far, you know. And the thing is, it's like, it's not one-shot tattoos. So if for some reason they didn't pay for this session, well, we're not going to do the next session, you know, so, you know, until they pay. So that's never been an issue, not a single time. So it works great for me.
Sure. Well, in the last couple minutes, I'm going to pull up World Tattoo Events and we'll see what's going on in the world coming up here soon.
Cool.
So I will not be going to any of these in the beginning. Richmond sounds more like Virginia, but we'll see. So things are happening. Things are getting rescheduled. It looks like there are all over the world stuff. Texas is predominant. But then you get down to the first week of June, and this area is where that Deadly Tattoo Convention is that we'll be going to. Yeah, there's so much going on.
So much. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Look at that. You just look at the months and the dates, and they're just like stacked on top of each other. So crazy.
Yep. So if you guys are looking, I know that now is essentially the time to get looking at where you're going to be. You really want to have a nice schedule because not only hotel costs, flight costs, all of those things are kind of inconsistent right now. So you'll see spikes in cost all over the place. So making a plan is something I highly, highly recommend.
Yeah.
Sooner than later.
Right. Yeah. And I assume hopefully everything from a health standpoint stays on track and all these events can actually happen. I've been a little more hesitant. We were talking about doing a fireside gathering here in Memphis in early June, just a small event with about 15 people or so, a 3-day event. And I keep, as you know, with the COVID stuff doing this, I was so stressed putting on the Paradise BYOB last October because of the kind of surge over the summer. And I've kind of been on my heels a little bit trying to decide whether or not we're going to go through. And I know 15 tickets wouldn't be difficult to sell even if we didn't announce it for a couple of more months. But I keep thinking I might just hold off for another year, go to other people's events.
Here's the question, I think. You know, I would say make a list of your goals and then kind of like divvy them up, because there will be about 8 quarters that you're worrying about in the next 2 years. And if you have these long-term goals, maybe it wouldn't even be feasible to do it. Like maybe you'd be cutting yourself short in other areas. But then again, ask yourself, like, is the situation with COVID going to be different? Is it going to be gone? So, I mean, if you're waiting for something that may not come, that's another question to ask yourself. Like, if the situation is just going to be the same again and again and again, then why wait?
Right.
But it kind of depends on a group of 15. Whether you do it next year or the year after sounds like super fantastic. I know that type of event in Memphis, Tennessee would be cool.
Yeah. I love the small kind of workshop feel events over the really massive ones personally. But yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Keep us posted.
Yeah, I definitely will. Because if we pull the trigger, I'll make sure that I announce it here first for sure. So.
Yep. And then you guys too, if you're watching, there's going to be like a reinventing gathering at Red Tree Gallery in February, the first week.
Oh yeah, right. Gabe was telling me about that. That sounds awesome. Did you decide before we wrap up? Are you going to the Star of Texas or no?
I think I might not go to that. I was planning on it, but then again, that the Red Tree Gallery thing is a couple days after.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And it comes down to that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that was fun. We managed to pull it off without Gabe.
Yeah. So if you guys want to leave any messages for him, we will pass them on.
We'll have him back next week. So I've missed a lot. I know a lot of people are chatting on the Fireside page, and I've missed a lot of it. Kate Bentley says $14.60 for $14.60 is probably the bulk order of the Tattoo Lovers Care.
Okay.
Mr. Something Hex, I can't read it, says how much for a name in cursive? All right. How much do you charge for a name in cursive, Lauren? She's a better deal than me. I just work on the day rate. For me, Lauren, personally? Yeah.
I charge by the piece,
Right.
Yeah, it would be, let's just say $750.
$750, perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I will talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Jake, the sign off, where to find you, of course, on Instagram and such.
Yeah, you can find me. My personal Instagram is at @PlugUglyArt. Fireside Tattoo is our other Instagram, run by my wonderful assistant, Allie, and she'll keep you up to date with what's happening in the world of Fireside. New episode this week, a 3 Minutes to Better Tattoo. Next week, I think, is our final podcast episode from the BYOB, and that was with Renee Little. That was a great one. We talked about plein air painting, which is one of my favorite things. So.
Awesome. And then you can find me at lauren.worldwide or Raw Pigments. We'll be making some cool announcements over the next few weeks and some changes. So